got to keep control.
Doing the crime war!
Waiter, I'd like to have you get my eggs. I've been sitting here for quite a while now. Yes, sir. My eggs, get the lead out, will you?
10 minutes more.
Looks like there's a prejudice against eggs here.
In these places, no one can get nothing. Kellner, besada.
Now see here. If I don't get my eggs before this watch ticks 20, there's going to be a riot here started by me.
Yes, sir.
I'm getting kind of mad. Good. I don't like trouble. How much?
A hair over. And that's fair. Don't like.
Pardon me, sir. I'd like to know why you call that little bit of a fellow air over. I reckon you would know what that means, Mr. Head Waiter.
Ah, yes, yes.
It's pretty amusing.
Don't you tell me that?
Nein, Kellner.
Why, yes, that's the ticket. Just call him waiter.
I didn't want to dispute.
In my country, we're very democratic. But that's taking it too far, don't you think?
More coffee.
No, thanks. These fellows, if you treat them in this manner, they take liberties. You'll see, you won't get your beer.
That looks like one for democracy. I take it you go in for brotherhood?
Oh, no.
I myself take considerable stock in Leo Tolstoy. Now, he was a grand man with a grand soul. But I guess you have to pinch a waiter some to make it skip. You'll appreciate that, the way he acted about my eggs. Waiter, a bottle of beer. Jump, now.
A cigarette?
Now, if I don't get that bottle of beer quicker than you got yours, I shall admire your technique.
Tolstoy is nothing. Nietzsche, no good.
Well, that is a matter of temperament. Now, I'm all for equality. Well, see that poor woman there? Very humble woman. There she sits among us with her baby. Perhaps you'd like to locate her somewhere else.
Tolstoy is sentimental. Nietzsche is the only philosopher, the only true one.
Well, that's within the framework. He's a very stimulating thinker, old Nietzsche. But give me Leo. What's your opinion, my dear? I judge by your labels you'll be Dutch. Did they read Tolstoy in your country? Pretty illuminating answer, isn't it?
Tolstoy is nothing. Man must himself express. He must be strong. He must push.
That's so. In the United States, we believe in virility. We like a person to expand. But we believe in brotherhood, too. That is, we aspire to it. We don't have much use for social barriers and distinctions.
Do you feel a drop?
I do not. Wait, you're a young country.
Well, that's true. There's no mold on us yet. To say, wouldn't you like to express your opinions on the duties of man? For example, is it your opinion that we should kill off the weak, diseased, and handicapped?
Yeah, that is coming.
They might be weak, too. Well, that's true humility, but not grammatical. Here's a proposition that brings it closer to the bone. Now, would you go out of your way to help someone like that when doing so would likely bring you trouble?
Nice. That is stupid.
I'm afraid not. But there was St. Francis of Assisi and Clara Barton and...
Oh, they had very lofty dispositions. I would guess they died together. Shake hands, sir. Here's my card. I like your sentiments, and I'm feeling kind of brotherly. Waiter, where the hell is that bottle of beer?
Come like. Translate.
Really?
Man, we don't have much use for that back in the States. I guess we feel more to trust in human nature.
Soon you will see that man has nothing but thoughts for himself.
Do you believe in human nature?
In human nature, I believe only as far as I can see him, no more.
Now that to me seems to be blasphemy. Well, I believe in heroism. I'll bet there's not one of us sitting here that wouldn't be a hero, if given the occasion.
Oh, do you really believe that?
Well, I define a hero as just someone who will help somebody at his own expense. Well, now take that poor woman there. Well, now she's a hero, I'll bet. She'd die for her baby any time, don't you think?
Fools will die for their young. That is nothing.
Well, I take it one step further. I postulate that each of us would die for that baby if it were threatened. Guess you don't know how good you are. Wouldn't you like to express your opinion now?
I beg your pardon.
The English are very humanitarian. They have a high sense of duty. So have the Germans, so have the Americans. I bet even in your little country they have that. This is an era of equality and high-toned ideas. What was your nationality, sir?
I'm afraid I'm nothing particular. My father was half English and half American, and my mother half German and half Dutch.
Why, what a mishmash, huh? Now, we don't have much use for that back in the States. We've We've grown kind of mild. We don't think of ourselves as we used to.
Sigaret,
My bottle of beer! Little Morny's gonna join George Washington. As I was about to say just when he came in this year of grace of 1913, the kingdom of Christ is quite a going concern. We might inherit a universal brotherhood. Well, this woman seems quite stiff in heart, but give her a chance and she'll jump right in and help too. Yep, I believe it.
I wondered, you may really want to, but somehow.
You seem kind of scared. Maybe you've had an experience. Now, I'm an optimist. I believe we're bound to make the devil answer for it in the near future. I think old Satan's going to have quite a bit of trouble from us soon enough. Well, this woman won't recognize herself. It'll be a very sacred upbringing.
What does he say?
He says our train has come to the other track. 1 minute we have.
Now, that's very provoking. I'm going to get my bottle of beer.
Arrogance, Duke. Here's the
What was that? Help?
Come on, my good woman. Come now.
I think I like that window rolled up. It's kind of chilly after that run they let us on. The Germans are great readers. It's a very stimulating practice. I myself read almost anything. Don Quixote. Now that's a fine novel, but we Americans take quite an amount of stock in old man Quixote. Bit of a wildcat he was, but we don't laugh at him.
He's dead. Dead as a sheep. A good thing, too.
In the United States, we believe in virility. We also believe in courage.
Courage. Courage is sentimentalish. Man must be in this modern age, must be strong, he must push, he must pull.
Well, that's so. I bet that your form of courage is sacrifice to the state, but we allow more freedom for the individual soul. What would you like to come in? Have a seat, please. Do you mind?
No, he must be our guest.
Nice to have us all together again. Where's the mother?
I'm afraid she got left behind.
Oh dear, it seems to be a real domestic crisis.
And you got stuck with the baby and the bundle?
It's pretty funny. I guess Providence just played a pretty mean trick on you. Maybe you better get off right away and give the baby back to its mother. Now, nothing can act madder than a mother.
Poor thing, yes. She must be suffering.
How did that come about, separated?
We got there just as the train was going to start, and I jumped thinking I could help her up. But the train moved too quickly and left her behind.
That's pretty amusing, but not for the baby. What kind of baby is it anyways? The judge is a bit pungent, eh?
I'm afraid I haven't even taken a look at it yet.
Which end is up?
Oh, I think the right end is, just as it is.
Well, that's something. Maybe you should hold it out the window a bit. Babies are such excitable things.
No.
My dear. I guess you're right, ma'am. There might be a draft out there. Well, this baby is precious. We've all of us got stock in this baby in a manner of speaking. It's a little bit like universal brotherhood. Is it a girl baby?
I'm afraid I haven't even taken a look at it.
It looks a little over-wrapped up. Maybe it had better be unbound.
9.
I guess you're right, ma'am. It might be a pity to unbind the baby. Perhaps you can inform us, ma'am.
Yes, of course.
Oh, let it be. Little beggar seems all right.
Well, that would seem only known to Providence at this moment. But I think it might be paying a debt to humanity to look at its face.
Nice little thing. It's sucking my finger.
I would surmise in your leisure moments that you have created babies, sir.
Oh, no, indeed no.
Oh, dear me, that is a loss. Well, I think we may esteem ourselves fortunate to have this little stranger right here with us. It shows you what a hold the little and weak have upon us nowadays. Well, this woman here, a woman of iron and stone, there she sits quite calmly next to it. And this baby is rather chastening. That is surely a sign of grace in this woman. True heroism.
I can see its face a little now.
What sort of physiognomy has it anyway?
I don't see anything but spots.
Spots. I'm told that is not uncommon amongst babies. Perhaps you can tell us about it, ma'am.
Yes, of course. Only what sort
They seem all over it. I feel sure it's quite a good baby underneath.
Well, that would be rather difficult to get at. I'm just a bit sensitive. I have very little use of infection of the epidermis. I guess it might be a good idea to fumigate the carriage. Does it suffer, do you think?
Really, I don't. I'm not sure I know so little about babies. I think it would have a nice expression if it showed me.
Is it kind of boiled looking?
Yes, it is.
I judge this baby has the measles.
Oh, there's a thing, shall I?
No, dash it.
I honor your emotion, ma'am. It does credit to us all. But I sympathize with your husband, too. The measles is a very important pestilence in connection with the grown woman. About those spots, are they kind of rosy?
they're dark, almost black.
Typhus!
Typhus? That's pretty serious.
It's stuffy for you here, dear, isn't it?
There's nothing I admire more than courage. I think I'll go smoke out in the corridor. This is the most sublime spectacle I've ever seen. There ought to be a record of this. You are typical, sir, of the sentiments of modern Christianity. You illustrate the deepest feelings in the heart of every man. I guess I'm wanted in the corridor.
See, I've been on in Boomy Gestomlen.
I only speak English and American.
This is nicht Urbuba.
Take care, it's ill, the baby.
This is not your baby, no?
No, it's not.
Good, you are arrested. This is not a pet. Hey, no. Good, you are arrested.
I'm not a thief, I'm...
Verstehen. Oh, still, you are arrested. This is all right. Come with us.
Where is the mother?
Come by next train. Das Telegram say, ook einen en mit schwarzen Buben und schwarzen hat. Arrest gentleman with black baby and black pay. Come with us.
Just a moment. I guess you got an angel from heaven there. What's this man in uniform for?
Was ist das?
Is there anybody here that understands American?
Versteh nicht.
Well, just watch my gestures. I was saying you have an angel from heaven there. You have a man in whom God takes quite an amount of stock. You have no call to arrest him. No, sir. Providence has acted pretty neat loading off that baby on him. This little man has a heart of gold.
Ah, aber das ist Subi.
Now, don't rattle. Man cares on gold. This is the flower of the field. He doesn't need any uniform to take him in.
Versteh absoluut niets. Ik moet mijn duty do.
But I'm telling you, this is a good man. He's probably the best man on God's earth.
Dat maakt niets. Good or no good, ik moet mijn duty do.
Very well arrested. The baby has typhus, first-class typhus, black typhus, Schwarzen typhus. Now you got it. I feel kind of sorry for you in the uniform. Do your duty.
Typhus? Hey baby, ja typhus.
I'm telling you.
Typhus, niemand.
There's one more problem.
Typhus, aber das ist grasslich.
Guess I kind of thought you'd feel like that.
Bij Sanitas machine, leak. Was we zijn?
Guess you better isolate the baby.
Arrest gentleman with black baby. There must a gentleman hold. Zo, mijn vrouw. De boebie nu nederzet. Kom met ons.
He say you must put the baby down.
You must.
Good man.
His spirit never denies.
Aber er muss.
Leave the poor ill baby here alone? Be damned to you.
Bully.
Blocks and klakken neerzetten.
I guess I lost that.
He says he thinks the little man is using the baby to keep from being arrested. Very smart, he say.
Now I judge you do him an injustice. This is a good man. He's got a sick baby and he won't leave it in the lurch. I guess we'd all act noble that way, given the chance. Guess you better go out of business and wait for the mother.
Thy mother shall be arrested. Be bring up baby with typhus. Put down the baby, do you hear?
But now see here. It seems to me you don't suspicion just how beautiful this is. Here we have a man giving his life for that baby. That's got no claim on him whatsoever. That is not a baby of his own making. No, sir. It's a very Christ-like proposition to the gentleman.
Put down that baby, or I will command someone to do.
That'll be interesting to watch.
Dock it from him. Nein, was nicht.
I guess I lost that.
He says he's not his officer.
I like that.
Nobody takes the book.
By Jove, will you?
The I command you. Sit here.
What a man that is. What a sublime sense of duty.
Meneer Boepie.
Nimm dat vraag. Sie wollen die mit typhus mit achterbak?
What did you say?
He said, why you bring a baby with typhus out, bring with you.
It's quite a question.
Typhus, a bit of typhus, 999 typhus.
Era typhus.
999.
left for me. Legs white as a banana. Guess you made kind of a fool of us with that old typist.
Yeah, booby.
Polen den ner accuseren.
Are they going to arrest him after all?
Good show.
Brother, I am proud to know you. This is one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced. I think I sense the situation when I say that we all esteem it an honor to breathe the rather inferior atmosphere of this station, along with our little brother here. I guess we're all going to go home and treasure the memory of this little face in our Museum of Recollections. And perhaps this good woman will also go home and watch the baby's face. I'm inspired with a new faith in mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to present to you a sure enough saint, only wants a halo to be transfigured. I think I'll get a picture of this old miracle. Ought to impress the folks back home.
All day long I'd pity, pity bum if I were a wealthy man. Wouldn't have to work hard. Diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-dum. If I were a pity, pity rich, yiddle-diddle-diddle man. I see my wife, my Goldie, looking like a rich man's wife with a proper double chin. Supervising meals to her heart's delight. I see her putting on airs and strutting like a peacock. Oi, what a happy mood she's in. Screaming at the servants day and night. The most important man in town will come to pardon me. They will ask me to advise them, like Solomon the wise. If you please, Reptavia, pardon me, Reptavia, posing problems that would cross a rabbi's eyes. Yada-dee-dya-dya, yee-dya-dya, yee-dya-dya. And it won't make one bit of difference if I answer right or wrong. When you're rich, they think you really know. If I were rich, I'd have the time that I lack to sit in the synagogue and pray, and maybe have a seat by the Eastern Wall. And I discuss the holy books with the learned men 7 hours every day. That would be the sweetest thing of all. If I were a rich man, diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-dum. All day long I'd pity, pity bum. If I were a wealthy man, I wouldn't have to work hard. Diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-dum. Lord, who made the lion and the lamb, you decreed I should be what I am. Wouldn't spoil some vast eternal plan if I were a wealthy man.
Dangerous, I'll be juggling the ultimate juggling object along with this apple and this knife. Get a load of this. A raw turnip. A lot of people ask
asked me, what's so dangerous about a turnip? And you see, I said, a lot of people ask me, what's so dangerous about a turnip? Well, I'm glad you asked. Have you ever eaten a raw turnip? Turnips are disgusting. They're about as disgusting as boogers. Before you go up here, how many people here know the difference between a turnip and a booger? Little kids won't eat turnips. I can tell what kind of jokes you guys like. Okay. When I was a little kid, my dad used to tell me to eat turnips to grow up and be big and strong. Now I'm big enough to say no. No, really, my dad's a great guy. He's like a father to me. My dad asked me what I wanted to do when I grow up as big as him. I said, diet. If you guys want to see me eat the apple, say, eat it. Eat it! Okay, I guess I have to eat it. Here we go. You guys ready? Yeah. I'm not. Eat the apple. Thank you. I know what you're thinking now. Boy, this kid's good. I'm bad. This trick is also very dangerous because I'm never quite sure what's going to turn up. Thank you very much for rooting for me. Now, you see, for those of you that didn't get it, a turnip's a root. It grows underground. I think that's Mother Nature's way of saying not to eat these things. Eat the apple.
Eat turnip.
I have a turnip here and I'm not afraid to use it. Okay. Eat the apple. Just finding my mouth. Oh, thank you. How many people here want to see me eat the apple? I'll say that one more time. How many people here would like to see me eat the apple faster? Go home. Faster? Excuse me? Want to play catch? Didn't think so. Faster. for your hand. Don't you feel proud of yourself? Okay. Now, have you ever been in front of an audience? No? You don't know? I can tell. You don't know there's 3 rules in show business. The first one, face front. The second one, smile. And the third one, never let him see you sweat. And no, I would have checked my zipper before I got on stage. Where's glasses? Didn't work glasses. Since I am going to be juggling 3 flaming torches, I did take along some safety precautions. Number 1, the fire hat. Well, that's for you to wear. Doesn't he look cool? And number 2, very important, just in case those pants catch fire. I really hate it when that happens. I brought the fire extinguisher. Now you'll know when to use it. You'll see flames rising up your pants. Okay, we'll set this right here. Your marker's right there. Can't you see? Yeah. We've planned this before. After I light these torches, I'm going to be throwing you this lighter. Now, this is not your lighter. This isn't even mine. So I will be wanting it back, okay? Because of this, I'll be giving you a souvenir. Is he lucky or what? Or he's not lucky. There we go. You ready? I'm not. There we go. Move what the lights do. Good catch. Try this. Didn't think so. Now, you guys, there's nothing to be alarmed about. I've done this trick thousands of times. Most recently, 2 weeks ago in the Oakland Hills. How many people here have seen another juggler juggle torches? They always say, kids, don't try this at home. Well, I'm not home. Here we go.
astounding. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. But listen closely.
Not for very much longer.
I've got to keep control.
During the time war, treating those moments with the blackness within me, and the void would be calling. Let's do time on the air. Let's do time on the air. It's just a jump to the left. With your hands on your hips.
It's so dreamy. Oh, fantasy, free me. So you can't see me. No, not at all. In another dimension. With voyeuristic intention. Well secluded. I see all.
With a bit of a mind flip.
You're into the time slip.
And nothing can ever be the same.
You spaced out on sensation.
Like you're under sedation. Let's do time on the air. Let's do time on the air.
Well, I was walking down the street just to have my thing. When I said to a guy in the end, oh, when he shook me out, he took me by surprise. He had a pickup truck and a devil's eyes. He stared at me and I felt a change. Time is nothing if I want it again.
Let's do time on the air. Let's do time on the air. It's just a jump to the left. With your hands on your hips.
whole year.
And I shall never leave it. Why should I? My life is over. He lies in his grave, and I have buried myself within four walls. We are both dead.
It's too awful to listen to. Nikolai Mikhailovich is dead. It was the will of the Lord, and the Lord has given him eternal peace. You have grieved over it, and that ought to be enough. Now it's time to stop. One mustn't weep and wear mourning forever. My wife died a few years ago, but I grieved for her. I wept a whole month, and then it was over. Must one be forever singing lamentations? That would be more than your husband was worth. You don't go out, you don't visit the neighbors, and you receive no one. We live, you'll pardon me, like the spiders, and the good light of day we never see. All the livery is eaten by mice, as though there weren't any more nice people in the world. But the whole neighborhood is full of gentlefolk. The officers are stationed in Rivon. Officers, simply beautiful. One can't see enough of them. A ball every Friday, and military music every day. Dear, dear madam, young and pretty as you are, if you'd only let your spirits live. Beauty can't last forever, and when 10 short years have gone by, you'll be happy enough to go out a bit, talk to the officers, but then it'll be too late.
Please don't speak of these things again. You know very well that since the death of Nikolai Mikhailovich, that my life is absolutely nothing to me. You think I live, but it only seems so. Do you understand? Oh, that his departed soul might see how I love him. I know it's no secret to you that he was often unjust towards me, cruel, and he wasn't faithful. But I shall be faithful to the end and prove to him how I can love. And there, in the beyond, he'll find me the same as I was until his death.
What's the use of all these words when you'd so much rather go walking in the garden or order Toppy or Pelican harnessed to the carriage and visit the neighbors?
Oh,
Dear madam, what is it, in heaven's name?
he loved Tommy so. He always drove them to the Chekhovs and the Glassovs. What a wonderful horseman he was. How fine he looked when he pulled at the reins with all his might. Tommy, Tommy. Give him an extra measure of oats today.
Yes, ma'am.
What's that? I'm at home to no one.
Yes, ma'am.
You shall see, Nikolai, how I can love and forgive. My love will die only with me when my poor heart stops beating. Aren't you ashamed? I've been a good, true wife. I've imprisoned myself within four walls and shall remain here till my death. And you're not ashamed of yourself, are you, my dear monster? You quarreled with me. You left me alone
Madam,
for...
someone is asking for you, insisting on seeing you.
You told him that since my husband's death I received no one?
I told him that, but he says it's a pressing matter.
I received no one.
I tried to tell him that, but he's a wild man. He swore and pushed himself into the room. He's in the dining room now.
Good. Show him in, the impudent. What a bore people are. What could they want with me? Why must they disturb my peace? Yes, it is true. I must enter the convent. Yes, the convent.
Fool! You make too much noise. What an ass! Madam, I have the honor to introduce myself. Lieutenant in the artillery, retired. Country gentleman, Grigory Stepanovich Smirnov. I am compelled to bother you about an exceedingly important matter.
What is it you wish?
Your deceased husband, with whom I had the honor to be acquainted, left me 2 notes amounting to about 1,200 rubles. Inasmuch as I have to pay the interest tomorrow on a loan from the agrarian bank. I should like to request, madam, that you pay me the money today.
1,200. And to what was my husband indebted to you?
He borrows from me.
Don't forget to give Tobby the extra measure of oats. If Nikolai Mikhailovich is indebted to you, I shall of course pay you. But I'm sorry, I don't have the money today. Tomorrow my manager will return from the city, and I shall notify him to pay you what is due you. But until then, I cannot satisfy a request. Furthermore, today is just 7 months since my husband's death, and I am not in the mood to discuss money matters.
And I am in the mood to fly up the chimney with my feet in the air. If I cannot lay hands on that interest tomorrow, they'll seize my estate.
Day after tomorrow, you'll receive the money.
I don't need money day after tomorrow. I need it today.
I can't pay you today.
And I cannot wait until day after tomorrow.
But what can I do if I don't have it?
So, you won't pay.
I cannot.
Is that your last word?
My last?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And they expect me to stand for all that. Just today, the toll gatherer met me in the road and asked me why I was always worried. Why in heaven's name should I not worry? I need money. I can feel the knife in my throat. I'm at the point of hanging myself. I woke up early morning yesterday, left my home in the early dawn, called upon all my debtors. Not one of them will pay off. I worked the skin off my fingers. The devil knows in what sort of terrible inn I slept, in a room with a barrel of brandy. And now at last I come here, hope for a little money, and all you give me is moods. Why shouldn't I worry?
I thought I made it plain to you that my manager will return from the city and then you will get your money.
I did not come to see the manager. I came to see you. What the devil, pardon the language, do I care for your manager?
Really, sir, I'm not used to such language or such manners, and I shan't listen to you any further.
What can one say to that? Moods. 7 months since out. Ah! I ask, have I to pay the question or not? I repeat the question. Have I to pay the interest or not? The husband is dead and all that. The manager is the devil with him traveling somewhere. Now tell me, what am I to do? Shall I run from my creditors in a balloon, or to bang my head against a stone wall? If I call on Gruzdev, he chooses to be not at home. Irashevich has simply hidden himself. I have called with Kurtin and came near throwing him through the window. Mazutov is ill, and this woman has moods. Not one of them will pay up. And all because I've spoiled them. Because I'm an old whiner dish rag. I'm too tender-hearted with them. But wait. I allow nobody to play tricks with me. The devil with them all. I'll stay here until you pay. God, I'm getting so angry because of this whole mess. Every tendon is trembling with anger, and I can hardly breathe. I'm even growing ill. Servant!
What is it you wish?
Bring me vodka or water. Well, what can we do? She doesn't have it on hand. What sort of logic is that? A fellow stands with the knife at his throat. He needs money, and she won't pay because she's not in the mood to discuss money matters. Women's logic. That's why I've never liked talking to women, and why I dislike doing it now. I would rather sit on a powder barrel than talk with a woman. But I'm getting cold as ice as affair has made me so angry. I need only to see such a romantic creature from a distance to get so angry that I have cramps in my calves. It's enough to make one yell for help.
Madam is ill and isn't receiving.
March! Ill and isn't receiving. Fine. It isn't necessary. I won't receive either. I'll stay here until you bring that money. You're ill a week, I'll sit here a week. You're ill a year, I'll sit here a year. As heaven is my witness, I'll get that money. You don't disturb me with your mourning. Or with your dimples. We know these dimples. Simon, unharness. I'm not going to leave right away. I'm going to stay here. Tell them in the stable to give the horses some extra oats. The left horse has twisted the bridle again. Stop, I'll show you. Stop, I say. It's awful. No money, unbearable heat. Didn't get any sleep last night, and now morning dresses with moods. Perhaps I ought to have something to drink. Yes, I must have something to drink. Servant!
What is it you wish?
Something to drink. A fine figure. No use denying that. Dust, dirty boots, unwashed, uncombed, straw on my vest. The lady probably took me for a highwayman. It was a little impolite to come into a reception with such clothes. Oh well, no harm done. I'm not here as a guest. I'm a creditor, and there is no special costume for creditors.
You take great liberties, sir.
What?
I just...
Keep quiet.
Nice mess. This fellow won't leave.
Lord, how angry I am. How terribly angry I am.
and I'll leave.
I told you once, plainly, in your native tongue, that I haven't the money at hand. Wait until day after tomorrow.
And I had the great honor of informing you in your native tongue that I need the money not day after tomorrow, but today. If you do not pay me today, I shall have to hang myself tomorrow.
But what can I do if I don't have the money?
So, you're not going to pay immediately. You're not.
I cannot.
Then I'll stay here until you get the money. You get the money day after tomorrow? Excellent. Here I stay until day after tomorrow. I ask you, have I to pay the interest tomorrow or not? Or do you think I am joking?
I beg of you, please don't scream. This isn't a stable.
I'm not talking about stables. I'm asking you whether I have to pay the interest tomorrow or not.
You have no idea how to treat a lady.
Oh, yes, I have.
No, you have not. You're an ill-bred, vulgar person. Respectable people don't speak so to ladies.
How remarkable. How would you want one to speak to you? In French, perhaps. Madame, je vous prie. Pardon me for having disturbed you. What beautiful weather we are having today. And how this morning becomes you.
Not at all funny. I think it's vulgar.
Not at all funny. Vulgar. I don't understand how to behave in the company of ladies. Madam, in the course of my life, I have seen more women than you have sparrows. 3 times have I fought duels for women. 12 I jilted and 9 jilted me. There was a time when I played the fool, used honey language, bowed and scraped. I loved, suffered, sighed to the moon, melted in love's torments. I loved passionately. I loved to madness, loved in every key. Chattered on like a magpie on emancipation. Sacrificed half my fortune to the tender passion. And so now the devil knows I've had enough of it. Your obedient servant will let you lead him by the nose no more. Enough. Black eyes, passionate eyes, dimples in cheeks, moonlight whispers, soft modest sighs. For all that, madam, I would not pay a kopeck. I am not speaking of present company, but of women in general, as a whole. From the tiniest to the greatest, they are conceited, hypocritical, chattering, odious, deceitful from top to toe, vain, petty, cruel, and all of them with a maddening logic. And in this respect, please allow my frankness, but 1 sparrow is worth 10 of the aforementioned petticoat philosophers. When a woman is in love, all she knows is how to complain and shed tears. If a man imagines he is looking at one of the holy beings, imagines it as a creature so divine that its one breath could dissolve him in a sea of 1,000 charms and delights. But if one looks into the soul, it's nothing but a common crocodile. But the worst of all is that this crocodile imagines it is some masterpiece of creation, that it has a monopoly on all the tender passions. May the devil hang me upside down if there is anything to love about a woman. If the man suffers and makes sacrifices, she swings her train about and tries to lead him around by the nose. You have the misfortune of being a woman. And naturally, you know a woman's nature. Tell me, on your honor, have you ever in your life seen a woman who was really true and faithful? Never. Only the old and deformed are true and faithful. It is easier to find a cat with horns or a white woodcock than a faithful woman.
But allow me to ask, who is
romantic. A knight will pass the castle, gaze up in the windows, and think to himself, here dwells the mysterious Tamara, who, for love of her husband, has buried herself within four walls. Oh, I understand the art.
What? What do you mean by saying such things to me?
You have buried yourself alone, but meanwhile you have not forgotten to powder your nose.
How dare you speak so?
Please do not scream. I am not the manager. Allow me to call things by their right names. I am not a woman, and I am accustomed to speaking things as I think. So please don't scream.
I'm not screaming. It's you who are screaming. Leave, I beg of you.
Pay me my money and I'll leave.
I won't give you the money.
You won't. You won't give me my money.
I don't care what you do. You won't get a kopeck. Leave.
As I haven't the pleasure of being either your husband or your fiancé, please don't make a scene. I can't stand it.
You're going to sit down.
I already have.
Kindly go out.
Give me the money.
I don't care to speak with impudent men. Leave. You're not leaving?
No.
No?
No.
Very well. Luca, kindly show the gentleman out.
Sir, what do you want from us? Why don't you leave when you're told?
Who are you talking to? I will grind into flour.
Oh, I need water. I'm ill.
Where's Dasha? Dasha, Victor!
They're all in the garden. I'm ill.
Leave! Get out!
Kindly be a little more polite.
You're vulgar. You're a bore. A monster.
What did you say?
I said you were a bore. A monster.
Permit me to ask what right you have to insult me.
What of it? You think I am afraid of you?
I allow no one to insult me. And I make no exception because you are a woman. One of the so-called weaker sex.
Bore! Bore! Bore!
It is high time to do away with the old superstition that it is only the man who is forced to give satisfaction. If there is equity in all, let there be equity in all things. There is a limit.
You wish to fight a duel? Very well.
Immediately.
Immediately. My husband had pistols. I'll go get them. What a pleasure will be to put a bullet in your impudent head. The devil take you!
Sir,
I'll shoot her down. I'm no
What do you
fledgling,
want?
no sentimental young
Fried me
puppy.
to death already.
For me, there is no
And
weaker
now you want
sex.
to fight
A
a
duel. That's equity. Emancipation. That way the sexes are made equal. I'll shoot her down as a matter of principle. What can one say to such a woman? The devil take you. I'll put a bullet in your impudent head. What can one say to that? She was angry. Her eyes blazed. She accepted the challenge. On my honor. The first time in my life I have ever seen such a woman.
Sir, please go away.
That is a woman. I can understand her. A real woman. No shilly-shallying, but fire, powder, and noise. Would it be a pity to shoot a woman like that?
Go away, please.
Here are the pistols. But before we have our duel, please show me how to shoot, for I've never held a pistol in my hand before.
God be merciful and have pity on us. I'll go get the gardener and the coachman. Why has this horror come to us?
You see, there are different kinds. There are special dueling pistols with cap and ball. But these are revolvers. Smith and Wesson with ejectors. Fine pistols. A pair like this costs at least 90 rubles. This is the proper way to hold a revolver. Those eyes, those eyes. A real woman.
Like this?
Yes, that way. Then you pull the hammer back. So, then you aim. Tilt your head back a little. Just stretch out your arm, please. Then you pull the little thing like that, and that is all. The chief thing is this. Don't get excited. Don't hurry your aim, and take time that your hand does not tremble.
It isn't well to shoot inside. Let's go in the garden.
Yes. I'll tell you now that I am going to shoot into the air.
That's
understand? I'm almost in love.
Leave, I hate you.
Lord, what a woman! I never in my life met one like her. I'm lost, ruined. I am caught, like a mouse in a trap.
I'll shoot.
Shoot! You have no idea what happiness it would be to die from a revolver in this little velvet hand. I'm mad. Consider it and decide immediately. For if I go now, we shall never see each other again. Decide, speak. I am a noble, a respectable man, have an income of 10,000, can shoot a coin thrown into the air. I own some fine horses. You be my wife.
I'll shoot.
Oh, I can't understand. My mind is not clear. Servant, father! I have fallen in love like any young man. I love you. I love you as I have never loved before. 12 women I jilted, 9 jilted me, but not one of them all have I loved as I love you. I am conquered, lost. I lie at your feet and beg for your hand. Shame and disgrace. For 5 years I didn't love. I thank the Lord for it. And now I am caught like a carriage, tongue in another carriage. I beg for your hand. Yes or no? Will you? Good.
Wait a moment.
Well,
Nothing, you may go, but no! Leave, I hate you! Or maybe I don't, or if you knew how angry I was, how terribly angry, this thing has made my fingers swollen, and what are you standing there for? Get out!
farewell.
Yes, go! Why are you going? No, leave, I hate you, or no, just don't come any nearer.
How angry I am with myself. Fall in love like any young man. I've got the chill. I love you. This is fine. All I needed was to fall in love. I have to pay my interest tomorrow. The hay harvest has begun. And then you will. I can never forgive myself.
Take your hands off me. I hate you. This is...
Merciful heavens!
Tell them the stables that Tommy isn't to have any more oats.
You had, family intact, and also a high work ethic.
Americans may not be working as hard as we do, so losing the game in competition.
We feel that we have always been pressed by the United States, pressed to do this, do that, chip in for this and that. There has been a constant nagging. That is how the Japanese feel the American pressure.
Today, we asked Americans in 5 cities across the United States to give us their reactions.
Americans like to think that we're number one, and I think that's part of that unspoken resentment about the Japanese.
Well, on the subject of racism, of course, the Japanese don't take a backseat to any other country in the world. And as African Americans, we are certainly acutely aware of how some unpleasant side effects of that racism impacts on their view of African Americans in this country.
But no Japanese really tells you what he's thinking. If he has a negative thought, he keeps it to himself. That's their negotiating style, and we've got to realize it.
This war might be harder to win than the one 50 years ago.
Their economy has not had to pay for a military-industrial complex as we have. So more of the research and technical dollars have been able to go into developing their economy.
If we cannot access their markets, yet they are free to access our markets, it really is unfair competition.
A lot of people say something about that atomic bomb, but if it hadn't been for that atomic bomb, they'd have killed 3 million people. Oh, Tojo, you make big mistake, Tojo.
To have someone say it was an honor to be the lead plane, that right there tells you the difference in our cultures at that time.
But we feel as rice producers in the rice industry that we have a superior product, we have a good product, and really all we're wanting to do is just a chance to compete in that Japanese market.
I have to say that I think that the American worker is still the best worker.
It's still built for it.
And will go that extra mile. We're not a homogenous society like Japan.
Yeah.
We can never be like Japan. We've got too many different ethnic groups, too many different types of people. They've got one goal. They're all on the same wavelength.
Why can't they come up with a simple apology? That's all the United States is asking, all the veterans are asking, is just an apology for that act.
They cannot change their culture in one generation. What effect would this have on their children?
I said if we don't beat them economically, they have won the war. It's as simple as that.
When foreigners come here, first the Americans, then the Japanese, and say that they want to take these lands, the native people feel very angry about that. There are native people in the Pacific. The Japanese have now literally started the second invasion, and they didn't seem to have any understanding that they are resented.
Live from Tokyo and cities across the United States, Japanese and Americans air their differences. This December 7th, 1991.
This is a special edition of ABC News Nightline, a national town meeting. Pearl Harbor, plus 50. Now reporting from the MHK studios in Tokyo, Ted Koppel.
That blunt dialogue you just heard, what we in America like to call a frank exchange, is very un-Japanese, comes dangerously close to what people in this country would consider bad manners. And that, of course, is part of the problem. The Japanese have shown themselves to be among the most aggressive competitors we've ever confronted. But when it comes to talking about our differences, there is a culture gap at least as difficult to bridge as our vastly different languages. Japanese do everything they can to avoid direct confrontation, which in turn often provokes a give-me-a-break reaction in Americans. These, after all, are the people who are beating our brains out in the marketplace, but they don't want to offend by giving a direct answer. We interpret their behavior as evasive, duplicitous, just the sort of thing you'd expect from the people who gave us Pearl Harbor. Our frustration, what sometimes breaks out into open hostility, is seen here as Japan bashing, an unfair, unreasonable, even racist reaction. Tonight, in what may well be a naive attempt, we are going to try again to do what Nightline has tried to do many times over the years, bring people together who are worlds apart. We are guests tonight of the Japanese Broadcasting Network, NHK. Joining me in this studio, an audience of Japanese, many of whom are English speakers. Rejoining me here, our distinguished panel of last night. Mr. Koji Watanabe, Japan's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. Ms. Wakako Hironaka, a member of Parliament in the upper house of the Diet. She is associated with one of Japan's leading opposition parties. And Mr. Kazuo Nukazawa, Managing Director of Keidanren, which might be described as the equivalent of our Chamber of Commerce on steroids. To talk with or at our panel, we have assembled audiences with the help of our affiliated stations in 5 U.S. cities. At Pearl Harbor, with the help of station KITV. In Seattle, Washington, at the studios of KOMO. In Houston, at the facilities of KTRK. In Cleveland, at the studio of WEWS, and at WCVB in Boston. We will begin our exchange among those 5 American cities and our distinguished guests here in Tokyo in just a moment.
Pearl Harbor, plus 50. This special edition of ABC News Nightline is brought to you by Carnival Cruise Lines.
Know where I am?
I'm at one of the finest resorts in the world, and if you're looking for a great vacation value, start right here. All your daytime fun, all your nighttime entertainment, and all your food is included in one low price. But what makes this resort really great is that it takes you to some of the world's other great vacation spots. Take a 3-, 4-, or 7-day fun ship vacation on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
You can count on Sears for great Christmas values, like 20% off our most popular Reeboks for men, women, and kids. Reeboks for everyone, 20% off. Don't miss it. Only at Sears now.
Do your holiday shopping with the Discover card, and you'll not only give, you'll receive a cashback bonus for every charge. It pays to Discover.
Time is running out at Bankruptcy Liquidators of America. Over $4 million in inventory must be sold now. We've slashed prices up to 80%. Women's shoes just $24.99 or get 5 pair for just $100. Children's athletic shoes, low tops just $20. High tops only $30. Men's and women's athletic shoes starting at just $10. Hurry for best selection. We're on Stevens Creek Boulevard near Lawrence Expressway. Bankruptcy Liquidators of America. You've got to see it to believe it.
From Touchstone Pictures, behind every beautiful bride-to-be stands a frantic, freaked-out father. Hey! A father who's just not ready to let his daughter go.
I'll just,
This Saturday night, see Steve Martin in the sneak preview of Father of the Bride, rated PG. Then, stay and be our guest for the movie Siskel and Ebert have declared an instant classic. Disney's Beauty and the Beast, rated G. Come for Father of the Bride, stay for Beauty and the Beast. This Saturday night, check newspapers for theaters and showtimes.
David Brinkley here. On Sunday's This Week program, our guest is Pat Buchanan. Why is he running for president?
The chickens are coming home to roost for President Bush.
Sunday.
They've taken jobs away, and now they're back in this country and they're creating jobs, and we feel that they should give it back to the people that they took the jobs from.
We have the workforce here, we have the land here, we have the plants here and facilities. Why not build here? I think that's the ball is in their court. I think that's a question that they have to answer.
Once again from Tokyo, Ted Koppel.
And we are back live once again from Tokyo, and we are going to go immediately to one of our guests in Seattle. I would like to ask that guest, first of all, and all of our others who are going to be asking questions or making observations, if you would be good enough first to identify yourself, and if you think it's relevant, to tell us what you do. Go ahead, Seattle.
My name is Samuel McKinney. I'm the pastor of the Mount Zion Baptist Church in Seattle, Washington, and I have a question for Mr. Nukazawa. And that question is, recent statements by Japanese Prime Minister Nakasone claim that this nation's educational and economic strength has been greatly reduced because of a large African American and Latino presence. Furthermore, that when Japanese manufacturing companies set up shop in this nation, sites are sought far from centers of non-white concentration, and our government has been requested to waive equal employment mandates. I would appreciate your response to these concerns.
I think Mr. Nakasone, when he was Prime Minister, withdrew that statement because he committed the error of judgment, you know, the statistical or whatever. He misread the facts in the United States. As to the factory site, I think Japanese companies are honoring the affirmative action rule in the locations or places where they are investing in.
In point of fact, though, isn't it true, Mr. Nukazawa, that they are not investing in places where there are a great many African Americans? And I think the Reverend's point is not so much what former Prime Minister may have had to say, but that what he said reflects what a great many Japanese think.
Oh, I think it is not related to minority. It is more related to labor union movement. Of course, Japanese are not good at dealing with American unions. Probably that is the reason why they are going to non-union state.
Mr. Watanabe, do you want to respond to that from the vantage point of the Japanese government? There is a sense that Japan is, in some respects, a racist nation.
No, I categorically deny that, because Japan is not a racist nation, and the remark referred to the gentleman from Seattle, where I happen to have lived 35 years ago, was, as Mr. Nakazawa said, was denied and withdrew. And
it wasn't denied. He said it, but he withdrew.
Yes, correct. And the notion of Japanese being racist might be erroneously due to the fact that Japan is a very homogeneous country. And so the sense of we versus they notion exists. So that can be misinterpreted as racist, but I categorically deny that Japan being racist.
All right, we're going to try and move around the country as quickly as we can, so now we're going to go for another question to Pearl Harbor. And if you'd be good enough to identify yourself, and if you think it's relevant, what you do.
Aloha to everyone there, to the three guests from Japan, and to Mr. Koppel. I am Haunani K. Trask. I am a native Hawaiian and a professor of Hawaiian Studies at the University of Hawaii. My question is to all of the three panelists. Given that Japan is now an economic superpower in the Pacific Islands, and that your effort to colonize the Pacific Islands through golf courses and through resorts is now dispossessing the native peoples of the Pacific Islands. And I refer, of course, to my own people, Native Hawaiians, but also to Chamorros and to Fijians and to Tahitians. My question to the three guests is this: what is your moral responsibility to the native people of the Pacific Islands that you are evicting from their lands, their farmlands, when you come here to put up golf courses and resorts?
Ms. Hironaka, do you want to begin on that?
Yes. I regret very much that if the golf courses are built without paying attention to the wishes of the native people, we should reconsider our investment. That's my answer.
Mr. Nukazawa.
I think if that is the wish of the people of Hawaii or wherever, that should be translated onto the legislative process in the United States or in the particular state, and prohibit a golf course acquisition or golf course building.
We are, of course, Mr. Watanabe, talking about, and I think the questioner was asking about more than just the golf courses. I don't know what the percentage is now, but I think it's something like 60 or 70% of all the hotels in Hawaii are owned by Japanese companies. There is a sense of dispossession. Could you respond to that?
Yes, I think it may well be the fact, and I think it's fact, that the 60 or 70 large percentage of the hotels in Hawaii are owned by the Japanese companies, but by building companies, owning companies, that they create employments. And that if that happens to lead to a situation that native Hawaiian people are evicted, then, as Mr. Nukazawa said, that has to be handled in legislative way, in the process, in democratic process.
We are going to try and move around in these early minutes of the program to as many cities as we can, as quickly as we can, and I gather now we're going to switch to Houston.
I'm Joe Porto. I'm a federal prosecutor. I served in Operation Desert Storm. My question is to Mr. Watanabe. Why was Japan so reluctant to support U.S. interests in the Middle East during Operation Desert Storm, both militarily and materially?
Yes, I'm glad to respond to that. First, materially supported that multinational forces effort in the Gulf crisis. But we eventually, our contribution came to about $13 billion. We did it even by raising taxes for that particular purposes. What we have not been able to do, was to participate by soldiers or by Japanese participation in the multinational forces. That was difficult because of the constitution debate, and we don't have that experience of being faced with the war and peace issue, how Japan react to it. And result of that lesson, so to speak, is being reflected in Japanese government's effort or Japanese people's effort to do something about human participation in that type of crisis. And that is PKO, Peacekeeping Operation Beyond.
I think the gentleman in Houston wanted to follow up. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I would. My question is to why we had to wait so long for Japanese commitment to U.S. interest in that region of the world when Japan has the similar interest that we have in that region.
Mr. Watanabe?
It took some time to get the money to the multinational forces because we had to go, as I said, the tax increase. And being a democratic country, Japan had to proceed on that process, getting the budget approval from the Diet. And it inevitably took time. But we committed early, and we delivered in due course.
All right, let me just find out where we're going next. Well, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. If you wanted to follow up one more time, if you're not satisfied with that answer, jump on in.
Not satisfied for the reason that we were in Operation Desert Storm from August till the actual war started by the end of January. And don't you believe that that was a long enough period of time to make that commitment to U.S. interest in that region?
Initially, we committed $2 billion in September. An additional $9 billion was committed in January before the military conflict took place. And we delivered that contribution in March. It was late, but that had to be done by the Diet process.
Ms. Hiranaki.
Yes, and also may I add that there is a strong sense of anti-war in Japan, pacifist. And this comes from the sentiment that we experience, which came from our past experience of the war, this Pacific War, and we regretted deeply. The deep remorse came out in the form of pacifism, and you should understand.
All right, we're going to switch now to Cleveland, I believe, and then I think we only have Boston left. Go ahead, Cleveland.
I'm Frank Valena, director of the United Steelworkers of America in all of northeastern Ohio. In 1981, I had 47,400 members, and today we're down to 20,389. Now, most of this was caused because of the illegal and unfair foreign competition. I have a question for Mr. Nukasawa, and it deals with this. We have a trade deficit in the United States of America of $40 billion for the first 8 months of this year. 26.7 billion of that 40 billion happens to be from one country, and that's Japan. That amounts to somewhere around 26 or something like that, or 67, I'm sorry, percent of the overall trade deficit. Now, that has to stop. And I ask you, Mr. Sukanawa, what would you do and what would you think if the shoe was on the other foot? Now something has to be done here, and I'm sure you would be thinking in terms of some protectionistic measures, which we are forced to think of today to try to keep our industries alive here in America.
All right, Mr. Nukasawa, if the shoe were on the other foot, if you were facing our trade deficit, how would you react, or what would you recommend?
Well, to start with, Japanese steel industry has responded to the plight of the United States and has been doing the voluntary export restraint to the United States since late 1960s. And they have moderated the export. And the large picture of trade deficit scene of the United States is decided by the savings investment imbalance. If the United States save less, your deficit will go up. If you save more, the deficit will go down. Now, the Japanese situation, the shoe on my foot, the Japanese steel industry has been exporting about 35 million tons a year, about 6 years ago. Now it is exporting only 16 million tons, and is importing 14 million tons a year.
From
all over the world. And in 5 years, I think the line will cross and will become a net importer of steel. And I do not have any objection to that situation.
Frank, do you want to jump in with another quick comment? We have to go to a break.
Well, I think what we're facing here today, too, are a lot of transplant companies where the Japanese are coming in, because I'm negotiating with a lot of our major steel corporations, and they're involved in joint ventures. So it appears that they're trying to capture our industries on both ends. They're trying to capture them on the exports that they send over here, and also they're involved in our industries here where they have a tremendous say-so on exactly what the productivity is here as well. And it's just a devastating situation, and we just have a tremendous amount of unemployment, and we believe that our government has to do something about this, and the sooner the better.
All right, we're going to stop on that moment for now and take a break, and we will give our guests, of course, a chance to respond to that and other issues when we come back.
There's never been a better time to buy a mink.
You can count on Sears for great Christmas values, like this Rival frozen yogurt maker for only $19.99. It comes with 2 pre-mixed flavors, delicious fat-free frozen yogurt you make at home. Save 20% through Saturday, only at Sears.
A cold starts small, but before you know it, your cold is full grown. Maximum strength Dimetapp relieves sneezing and congestion. 12-hour Dimetapp Extend tabs, relief for the full-grown cold.
Hey, Ace has everything you need to deck the hall.
What's left for Santa to do?
You'll ask Ace, too.
This Fiskars 3-piece scissor set is only $9.99, and the Ace 10-piece wrench set is also only $9.99.
Hey, Ace is a place for me.
And Santa.
It's here, Levitt's greatest Christmas sale with hundreds of home gift ideas ready for Christmas delivery. Like this special recliner purchase at an outstanding price of only $266. Handy touch motion action in your choice of rocker recliner or space-saving wall snuggler. Each in a choice of brown, blue, or beige. And there are hundreds of other exciting home gift ideas on sale now at Levitt's.
You love it at Levitt's.
A formal statement from the Men's Warehouse.
Some of us get our tuxedos for free. Others pay over $300. You could rent one for $50 if you don't mind wearing someone else's clothing. Or at the Men's Warehouse, you could buy this wool tuxedo for only $1.99. And after you wear it, the tux stays in your closet. Sending it back is for the birds. I guarantee it.
25 stores, including San Jose, Salinas, Capitola, and now open in DelMarHigh Center, Monterey.
Access Computer, a little bit better computer store. Better name brand products. Better service with 12 full-time technicians. Better price. A brand new 9-pin dot matrix printer by Atari, now only $39. That's right, only $39, which includes IBM and Atari emulation. Or save on a complete 286 system with hard drive, monitor, and graphic card by Hyundai. Now only $555. Affordable financing and business leasing available. Access Computer in Santa Clara, a little bit better.
Hi, we're Genesis. Join us for a behind-the-scenes, no-admittance look at the making of our new record, We Can't Dance, later tonight on In Concert.
Pearl Harbor Day, the 50th anniversary commemoration. A moment of silence, a word from the President, an hour of insight by ABC News. Pearl Harbor Plus 50. Live coverage begins tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Time.
Very little is given in their country on what happened at Pearl Harbor.
One of the ways of not repeating history is for everyone to know the atrocities of war on both sides, and that we need to find other ways of settling differences besides dropping bombs on people.
Now again from NHK in Tokyo, Ted Koppel.
Welcome back, Mr. Nukazawa. You remember the point that the gentleman from the United Steelworkers was making, namely that the Japanese are coming in both directions, directly and in terms of joint enterprises.
Well, when our trade surplus went up, we were asked by the American government and the state governments that we invest in the United States to provide jobs and make technology transfers to the United States and help American balance of payments. I think the Japanese have not been too positive in buying up the existing firms, but when you are approached, certainly, if you are interested, you buy. If the American people do not want the American companies to be bought, they should say that large placard, this is not for Japanese and donkey. You better say that, or you prohibit that by legislation. That is perfectly all right with us.
You wouldn't scream protectionism if we did that?
No, we don't, because you have values other than economic. You see, you may have the national security interest. You may have other cultural reasons. For instance, Canadians have restricted your investment in their broadcasting business.
I have a different opinion because it's against the treaty for the United States to have a legislation to prohibit the foreign ownership of American property, American companies. And I think what the government should do is to encourage, to support American industries by whatever the others, tax, the credit, and possibly subsidies.
All right. Yeah. We're still going to try and move around as quickly as we can, so let's go now to Honolulu. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Courtney Chun, and I'm a senior at Punahou School here in Hawaii. And my question is directed to all three of the panelists. Isn't it dangerous that the young people of Japan are learning about history from textbooks that downplay Japanese aggression in Asia during the 1930s and the Pearl Harbor attack 50 years ago?
Ms. Hironaka.
I have no idea. I understand that the textbook clearly state the historical facts.
Actually, your textbooks, and we just looked at some of them the other day, make almost no mention. I mean, there's perhaps half a page of what happened at Pearl Harbor. And as to the rape of Nanking, for example, that is written about in very, very obtuse and gentle terms. It is not really confronted head-on. Would any one of the other of you like to respond? Yes, Mr. Watanabe.
Yes, that issue has been raised with the Japanese government for some time, and the government has pledged itself to look into the problems. I was personally involved with the textbook issues between Japan and China, Japan and Korea in early 80s, and the situation has been improving.
So you do acknowledge that there has been a problem until now?
But what I would like to emphasize is, as Mrs. Hironaka mentioned, that the strong repentance, strong sense of remorse of the war committed by us, by our forefathers and fathers, is embodied in our attitude toward the war, as is embodied in our mind in the constitutions of 1949.
All right, we have another question, this one from Houston on, I think, a related subject. Go ahead, Houston.
Yes, my name is James Hooper. I'm a librarian with an international oil and gas corporation here in Houston. And my question is for Mrs. Hironaka. We know that the Japanese have not been looking forward to the 50th anniversary here in the United States. Do you think the Japanese would be less concerned about the new round of Japan bashing that this might create if they had textbooks that were less censored?
Textbooks were...
I don't think she heard the last part of your question. Could you just repeat the last part of your question?
I was wondering if the Japanese would be less concerned about a new round of Japan bashing that might come about with this 50th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor if their textbooks and their history books were less censored.
Ms. Hironaka.
I don't know. Well, I am one of the people among the Diet that we should recognize our past history and also apologize to the world, not only to the United States, but all the nations, especially to the people that had suffered by our aggression. And also, I would like to express, we wanted to express our appreciation to the United States and other countries who have supported us during the post-Reconstruction era. And, but I would put a question around. Even if what we have done is a terrible thing, it is very, very difficult for us to face beyond a certain point. Look at your own, I mean, you know, unfortunately, the world is full of, you know, wars, aggressions, and look at all the textbooks. Examine all the textbooks.
The only question I would raise to you, Ms. Hironaka, and then the gentleman in Houston wants to come back, I know. You are one member of the Diet, of the Parliament, who feels as you have just expressed. But in point of fact, officially, the Japanese government has not apologized and has just indicated over the past 24 hours that it has no intention of apologizing. Mr. Watanabe?
I think that, Ted, you are somewhat misinterpreting the facts that the Japanese government has apologized to China. We have apologized to the Southeast Asian countries. We have apologized as recent as a week ago. My foreign minister apologized by way of saying that we feel a strong sense of remorse about the unbearable suffering and pain inflicted by Japanese.
That was in the Washington Post interview.
Correct.
But then others in your government made it very clear that this was not to be constituted as any kind of formal or official apology, and that it was just for the Washington Post and it wasn't said anywhere else.
No, it would be repeated, sure.
All right, let's go back to Houston and see what follow-up the gentleman has.
Well, what I was curious about is that we know that certain historians and intellectuals have been laboring and lobbying to have the history books made more correct. Do you owe them an apology, and do you owe your children an apology for not being open and true about the wartime transgressions?
Mr. Nukazawa?
I think, you know, the high school days and middle school days were long forgotten from my memory, but when I was a child, high school boy, I learned all these things in the textbook. Textbook was there, and also side readings, which were given by the teacher, you know, as a requirement. They are full of historical facts. And in those days, the Japan Teachers Unions were full of communists and socialists, and they gave us lots of materials of the wartime facts. And in my daughter's day, when my daughters were in high school, they were given the side readings, the book on Japanese atrocity in China. So don't just read the textbook, but also the side readings, which are required readings given by the teachers.
We have a guest in Honolulu at Pearl Harbor who would like to follow up on this point. Go ahead, sir.
I'm Charles Morrison. I'm with the East-West Center, a research organization in Hawaii. Greetings. It has been 40 years that we have been strong security allies. The Cold War is over. Do you still need us, and why? Do we need you? What is the rationale for our security alliance in this new era?
Mr. Watanabe?
It's very interesting. I happen to know this gentleman. Hi, Charles. It's nice to see you. I think the security arrangement is essential in Japan-U.S. relations because lots of uncertainties and instability still remains in this region. Korean Peninsula, what the North Korea would do in terms of nuclear development, what would be the situation in China? Would peace be consolidated there? So we need to have this alliance. And in fact, Japan-U.S. security alliance is the basic framework of peace and stability in this region. And it's a symbol of partnership, symbol of friendship.
But in the absence of the communist threat, is it less important than it was before?
I don't think so, because as I said, in this part of the world, there are instabilities, uncertainties. And for the United States to have their forces deployed overseas are beneficial to your interest. Probably it's less costly than before, than you have in your own land.
All right, Mr. Nukazawa, we have to take a break. We can come back on this point after the commercial. We will be back with all of our guests, both here and in the United States, in just a moment.
Panasonic presents a new breed of smooth operator. The new Smooth Operator rechargeable razor unites the old-fashioned closeness of a warm, wet shave with the convenience and no-nick comfort of an electric. Don't try this with any plugged-in razor. Smooth Operator wet-dry razors from Panasonic. Smoother than you ever thought you'd be.
You can count on Sears for great Christmas values. These men's sweaters are all 25 to 40% off. This jacquard sweater just $14.99. You save 40%. Terrific looks, terrific prices, only at Sears.
There's a new way to doctor a cough. Robitussin cough drops.
Try this, it's new.
With an active ingredient that speeds soothing relief to your cough.
Try this, it's new.
New Robitussin cough drops. Cough drops from the cough experts.
Introducing Glade Plug-ins Potpourri.
Plug it in the fresh in the air. Plug it in the fresh in everywhere.
Plug into freshness with Glade Plug-ins, now in Potpourri.
Plug it in, plug it in. Oh, my love, come with me to the sea of love.
Share the fantasy. Chanel number 5.
Let KNTV 11 bring you and your family their first gift of the holiday season. Join us for a San Jose tradition guaranteed to delight any Scrooge and get everyone into that special holiday spirit. It's the magical wonder of the annual Christmas in the Park Parade. Our exclusive live coverage begins Sunday, December 8th at 5:30. A holiday gift from KNTV 11 and these companies that care. Calpac Roofing, San Jose Civic Light Opera, Made in Japan, and FMC.
We mean business, with over 18,000 vehicles sold this year at the Expressway Auto Center in San Jose. Come shop a $35 million automotive inventory on sale at the Capital Expressway Auto Center in San Jose, where big selection and bigger values is our biggest business.
This is a special edition of ABC News Nightline, a national town meeting. Pearl Harbor, plus 50. Here again from the NHK studios in Tokyo, Ted Koppel.
Mr. Nukazawa and I were just chatting during the break, and he was telling me he's a masochist and enjoys all these tough questions. So just before we leave that last question having to do with the military relationship between the United States, the strategic relationship between the United States and Japan. You wanted to make a quick comment on that, and then we're going to go to Seattle.
Well, I think we will be doing a military contribution in the form of PKO, as Mr. Watanabe said.
PKO meaning?
Peacekeeping operations.
Peacekeeping operations.
Peacekeeping operations, and then peacekeeping forces under the flag of the United Nations. And then the Japanese government is paying $61,000 per American soldier stationed in Japan.
And how many American soldiers are here?
45,000, and within three years, the amount of budget will be $100,000 per soldier. And after that, probably the United States may want to withdraw from Japan, depending on the international circumstances. We may build regional security networks with the participation of China, the United States, Soviet Russia, whatever.
All right. Let us go to a new line of questioning. And yes, sir, in Seattle, if you would identify yourself and what you do, please.
Yes, my name is Kent McFall. I'm a software executive at a small software company in Seattle, Washington. My question is for Mr. Watanabe. I'd appreciate your comments on the anti-American attitudes developing in Japan among prominent businessmen and politicians, as well as some of the younger generation of Japanese. We've been reading in the Japanese and U.S. press about kenbei, and it's a recent term that's been coined for the almost hatred of Americans and America. And I know that the Finance Ministry was concerned enough to commission a confidential report on kenbei, and I'm just wondering, do you think that we can have a positive U.S.-Japan relationship with these kind of attitudes?
I'm glad to answer that question, particularly because I was in Seattle 34 years ago, and I was a vice consul. The trouble was there was much vice in Seattle at that time. But on this kenbei issue, I think there is the feeling of dissatisfaction and happiness by using Mr. Nukazawa's word, not my word, being nagged by the Americans. And I think as we think we should be asserting our positive role in the international community, I think that type of relationship, perceived relationship, is getting more and more difficult to accept.
What does kenbei mean?
Kenbei is the feeling of I don't like the United States, or that anti-American feeling. It's very difficult. It's just general dissatisfaction.
And what is it based on? This nagging that you're both talking about?
Yes. The big brotherly attitude, and I think having been participating in trading association, I can share that feeling sometimes.
Mr. Nukazawa, this is your cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. Well, the kenbei is not really anti-Americanism. If you look at the popularity poll among the Japanese, which country do you like most? The America is always at the top of the list. At the beginning of this year, it was for 42% of the people said America, we like America. That is top of the list, and followed by Switzerland, France, etc. And this is always so. You are the most liked country in Japan.
But let's talk about those who don't like us and why they don't like us.
Well, of course, some Japanese do not like arm-twisting exercise and high-handedness in negotiation. That's obvious and natural human reactions. When you are arm-twisted, you don't smile, do you?
And again, mass media report that portion of U.S.-Japan relationships. And personally, I know many friendly Americans, and I really hate this situation because there has been, communications, exchange of cultural exchanges, artists, scholars, businessmen, and family exchanges. So I would hope that both countries, Japan and the United States, would drop this sort of confrontational attitude. At this moment, it would be very difficult, but we should look forward. There are a lot that Japan can do to improve the situation, and I hope that you would solve your internal questions. I want you to be much more competitive. The weak America is the last thing we want. After all, we have been admiring America and working so hard to catch up to you.
I think you've done it in a lot of ways, and that's part of what we're talking about here this evening. Let's move over to Honolulu again, to Pearl Harbor.
Good evening. I'm David Ramstra. I'm an economist and a great friend of Japan, and I don't want to appear to be another part of this nagging American population, but there is a very nagging question, if I may ask. for those of us who travel back and forth to Japan regularly, we remain amazed that we can still buy Japanese cameras and other products cheaper in New York and San Francisco than we can in Tokyo and Nagoya. And to many of us, it appears that Japanese companies are essentially charging higher prices in Japan to the consumers of Japan in order to subsidize the lower export prices to the United States that are, in essence, destroying local companies. But it isn't just American products. As a part of a leading nation, economic nation, I wonder why you don't think it's strange that that condition exists, but also that Japanese tourists can come to Honolulu and Dallas and buy French products much cheaper here than they can in Japan. Why are you still closed as a society to trade from all over the world, not just from the United States?
Mr. Nukazawa, a couple of interesting points there. It's true. There's no point in trying to buy Japanese electronics here anymore. You can get them much cheaper in New York. And the other point is, I just came back from Europe, and you see Japanese standing in line in some of these expensive French stores, you know, to buy the handbags, to buy the clothes. There's something wrong here, isn't there?
I would like to ask the same question to you, sir.
Well, I think the Japanese, there are several factors. One of the factors is that Japanese land value is very high. If you open the shop, that's very costly, and the wages are high here. You know, but basically, the American distribution sector is much more efficient than the Japanese distribution sector. Because
no, hold on just a second. You're telling me that the cost of producing a Nikon camera, for example, that is as high whether you sell it here or whether you sell it in the States.
I'm talking about distribution cost. You know, when you open the shop here to sell camera, Japanese camera, it has to reflect the cost of opening the shop, the high land value, and the cost of wage, and cost of post-sale service, etc.
But what about the cost of shipping it all the way to the United States?
Yeah, that is. But if you buy in a large quantity, then you have a discount. And I have a good advice to him. If he is a merchant, he can establish a company whereby you buy all these Japanese products and send it over, open shop here, and sell the same products and make money. Because if you can buy 20% less than in Tokyo, you know, price-wise, then you can open a shop and sell the same thing in Tokyo.
I think it's only fair to let this gentleman come back in again. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I wanted to say just one thing, that is that the French product certainly can't be that much more expensive in Tokyo than it should be here, but